State Senator Nathan Johnson of Dallas. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. So
glad to talk with you as always.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much. So as you know, there's a lot of discussion about what the Public Utility Commission of Texas has just approved, this new market plan for the Texas electricity market. And three letters that I think a lot of people are going to have to get used to hearing, at least temporarily, is PCM, Performance Credit Mechanism. A lot of criticism out there saying that this plan that was adopted is too complex, never been tried before, and is going to cost Texas consumers too much money. Where are you on this plan?
I'm still evaluating it. I'm aware of all these criticisms. I'm aware of the work that went into crafting this plan. I think that we all do need to give it a chance, to give it more evaluation as to how this is different from other plans. Without advocating for it or against it at the moment, I'll tell you that it's not quite as new as everyone thinks it is. It's a little bit like the COVID vaccine, right? And although I'm not sure they would appreciate the analogy, people were worried that it was this brand new thing. But the fact is the COVID vaccine was the final stage in 30 years of research. It was customized to that particular novel virus. Similarly, when we're looking at these market reform mechanisms, there are models that have been out there around the world for a long time. They all have problems. The PCM, the Performance Credit Mechanism, is an attempt to create a mechanism that obtains the advantages of these other systems and addresses some of the disadvantages. Will it work? Is it too complex? We don't know yet. But a lot of work has gone into it, and I think it's important that we have this conversation. And that's really what's happening right now. The conversation's going on.
And so do you think that this is worth pursuing, or do you think it's something where they still need to study it?
Well, I think it's in motion now, and that was the effect of the vote. That doesn't mean it's irreversible, and that doesn't mean that it can't be altered, and it doesn't mean it can't be pursued in conjunction with other measures. I do think it's worth pursuing, either because we're going to go through with it or because we're going to learn something from that process. And it's going to take a lot of work from a lot of people acting in good faith in order to figure out what we can get from this.
What do you say about the concerns that this is going to cost consumers just too much money, and it's more expensive than, perhaps another model, another system?
Yeah, one of the difficulties we face is in calculating those numbers. Depending on what you put in on one side, you get a different number out on the other side. So you could look at a set of assumptions that says this is absolutely the most economical thing we can do, and it's guaranteed to work. Or you could input a different set of assumptions and say, wow, this is going to cost way more than everything else, and it's probably not going to work. And we had hoped that after a couple years of experts looking at this, there would be a general consensus out there. Aha, here's the answer. And there isn't. There is not a general conclusion. There's not a general agreement among experts as to what clearly is the answer. We hope to get there and get there very quickly.
So let me ask you, isn't the bottom line the fact that the state of Texas obviously continues to grow as far as new businesses coming in, as far as new residents coming in, and the state needs more power plants, natural gas-fired power plants that can be turned on in an emergency situation when you have extreme heat or extreme cold?
Yeah, it's absolutely true that we are growing, that our power demands are growing, both in terms of residents and industrial usage and the types of industry that draws power, the quantities they demand. And we're going to need that, if not today, then certainly tomorrow, certainly in the 3 to 5 year time frame. I don't think we can manage our way out of this challenge. We're going to need new generation. Does it all need to be fossil fuel driven? Well, you know what? Right now, that's the quickest, surest power that we can possibly have. In the future, we may see renewable intermittent power paired with things like batteries, where we have all different kinds of dispatchable generation. What we need is availability of all these different methods of generation simultaneously so that they can complement each other throughout the day and throughout the year.
And when you mention batteries, you're talking about battery storage that could take wind generation and solar generation and have that stored. So on a cloudy day where there's no sun, or on a scorching day where there's no wind, have that source of power available at a moment's notice.
Absolutely. Or when a gas-fired power plant is unexpectedly down, and that does happen. We may have a big array of batteries and the wind's been blowing hard and that energy is there, deliverable, maybe not for a whole day, maybe only for 2 hours or 4 hours, but that's enough time to get the old generator fired up and going again.
Isn't it also true that federal and perhaps state subsidies have made wind and solar energy so cheap that it hasn't been cost effective where power generators want to invest in new power plants, natural gas fired or nuclear, et cetera, in the state of Texas?
I think it's hard to disagree with that. That those federal subsidies have led Texas to be the #1 wind power producer in America, #2 in solar, and solar is growing rapidly. And we've all benefited. Those subsidies effectively have resulted in lower costs for electricity. But along with that, you see less money to be made from traditional gas-fired power generation. And a lot of the market work we're trying to do is make sure that we send the right incentives, notwithstanding those federal subsidies coming in. Look, we're still going to benefit from those. That's a ton of money coming in that lowers our prices and creates jobs. It's terrific. But we need to make sure that electricity isn't so cheap that we don't have power when we need it.
And which is essentially where we're at now, right?
I don't know if we're there right now. Well, we did a lot of good work last session in trying to stabilize our systems, but I think we're vulnerable right now. And I think in the long term, it's difficult to imagine that we're not going to be short generation if we don't make some changes.
So let me ask you, because there was a scathing letter that was put out yesterday by one of the authors of Senate Bill 3 back from after the winter storm. And essentially the letter said to the PUC, we told you not to take action until the legislature has a chance to chime in and weigh in on this. Do you agree that the legislature should weigh in on this before a plan was put in place by the PUC or voted on by the PUC?
I certainly agree that it's imperative that the legislature take part in this discussion and in this process, and that we affect the ultimate outcome. Whether there's a vote or not a vote yesterday has to do with a whole lot of political forces within the agencies, within the state. The vote has been taken. Right now, our job is to make sure that we are on the right course, correct as necessary. And then hopefully at some point, not too long from now, and I'm talking about months, everybody is on the same page. The PUC, the House, the Senate, the governor, the lieutenant governor, the generators, the suppliers, the intermittent renewable, everybody understands that here's a single direction we need to go. Jack, here's why that's important. A lot of this depends on the willingness of the investment community, the power generation investment community, to see Texas as a stable, good investment. We got to have that. That in turn draws industry here. It draws people here. It stabilizes our whole economy. And that only happens if we are speaking with a single voice. So vote or no vote, that's where we got to get to in the next couple of months.
Is that going to happen?
Yes, I hope so. I think so.
And because right now, I know the governor may be one of the only voices, although you said this is something that we should pursue. The governor said to the PUC last week, the PCM best meets this call because it's based on a reliability standard, incentivizes new dispatchable generation, which are the natural gas fired power plants, if you will, and maintains Texas's energy only market. Is he right?
I think that everybody's got their opinion on this. I can't declare who's right or wrong right now. Those terms are general. What is a reliability service? What is an energy only market? Which solutions will fit within those parameters? And I think the political solution lies in us agreeing on the correct path and agreeing to changes to any proposed mechanism that bring it closer to the energy only market or closer to a reliability mechanism, working in concert with other things to where everybody can say, this is consistent with my view of how Texas ought to run the system. I think that goal is achievable. I think we can reach a definition that we all agree on and a market mechanism that fits that definition. It's not going to be easy, but it's our job. We've got to get there.
Democratic State Senator Nathan Johnson of Dallas, thank you so much for your input. We really appreciate it.
I appreciate being able to talk with you on this.